Hello friends, welcome back. Let's begin our learning on the topic national income, and today's topic in hand is national income at current and constant prices. So let's begin. National income at current and constant prices. What's new about it? We have been talking about national income previously many times. So it's only the addition of this statement, current and constant prices. So let me recall once again the definition of national income, and yeah, please be informed that there are several keywords in the definition, and if we miss on any one keyword, we would be missing on the marks. So how do we define national income? National income is the money value of all the goods and services. So its money value is the first keyword of all the goods and services that is produced by the residents of any country during a period of one fiscal or financial year, right? So this is national income. So when we have to define national income at current prices, so the only change here in the definition would be, I would have to add in this, calculated at current prices. Calculated at current prices means that if there is some production happening today and we are measuring the production at today's prices, so that would be current year prices. If we are trying to measure it at some previous prices, that would be some other concept. So here it is today's production at today's prices or this year's prices, right? So when we talk about this topic, national income at current prices, there is alternate name given to this topic, and that is called the nominal national income. So this is nominal national income, right? But when I say nominal national income, the flip side of this is it's a bad indicator, or it's not a good indicator of any economy's economic growth. Right. So let's begin with the counterpart of this concept. What's the counterpart? The other aspect is the national income at constant prices. Now, what is that? Constant prices. And when we say the constant prices, we do have it as noted at base year's prices. Base year's prices. Before proceeding any further, let me take you to your previous year's understanding about base year. Where have we read it? This concept was taken up in the chapter index number. And we tried to talk about the indices made on the basis of a base year. Base year means that very year with which we try to give economic comparisons. Base years becomes the base, and the price index of base year is always 100, 100. That's why if we have any base, the base year is 100, and when we have the price index as 125, what does it indicate? It indicates that there is 25% rise in the prices of an economy. When I say it's 150, the price index is 150, it simply showcases that there is 50% rises in the prices of goods and services of any economy. We have read it before. And the speciality of the base year is we should have, or ideally we have the base year, which is free from any sort of fluctuations. There should not be any inflationary or deflationary tendencies happening during that year. And the best possible example of the recent years is year 2020. What is the speciality about this year? The speciality is this was COVID year, and we would never have in the future generations also, in the time to come also, this year taken as the base year. Why? Because it was full of fluctuations. We had the demand dipped to unprecedented levels. Because the demand wasn't there, so production wasn't there, so income also suffered. So we never compare any financial parameters with such year which is full of fluctuations. That's the biggest feature of base year, that base year always is free of fluctuations. And for these days, we are taking 2011 and 12 as the base year. Right. So let's begin. What do we mean by national income at constant prices or base year's prices? So again, we would have all those four features, means all the key points which we talk about national income. Like this is the money value of all the goods as well as the services produced by the residents and produced in one financial year. But here the point is it is calculated at constant prices. So at measured at constant prices. And what do we mean by this? We mean by this is, say, for the ongoing year's production means the quantum. If I check the worth of this quantum by the prices of the base year, right? Prices of the base year. And I told you the base year is, say, this which we are using these days. So this production price into quantity gives me the national income. But here the speciality of this national income is that this is national income calculated at base year's prices. This is also given an alternate name, and that is called real national income. And you must note that this is the good indicator or a better indicator of any economy's economic growth. Right. So if we have a question here in examination of differentiation between the two, so how would we be going for the same? What is the meaning? How can we convert each one national income at current price into national income at base year's prices or whatnot? Let's have the formula. So national income at constant price, we can find how? By just this formula, national income at current prices divided by the price index or the current price index into 100. So this formula gives us the comparison of one national income into another. If we want to convert current into a real national income into the nominal national income with this formula. National income at current prices is nothing but the nominal national income. And current national income at constant prices is nothing but the real national income. So if we talk about the difference between the two, this is a wonderful question, most often expected from paper's point of view. So we have now every differentiation should ideally be given in a T table, wherein we talk about first thing like national income at current prices and national income at constant prices. Right. And the best presentation would be if, along with the differences, we do give the basis of the differentiation. So you should ideally be writing the basis. So how do we calculate or how do we differentiate between the two concepts? I have already given you the definition. So you give the definition. Then you talk about how do we calculate. Calculation. Again, national income at current year prices means the quantity is this year's as well as the prices are this year's. But when we say at constant prices, the quantity is this year's, but the prices are the base year's prices. Right. Then we have the alternate name also is given to it. So alternate name is, as we know, this is called nominal national income and this is called real national income. Right. Then we say the cause of change as the next point. So how this national income changes? This national income changes with change in quantity as well as change in the prices. But this national income changes with only the change in the quantity, because we have taken the constant prices here, right? And which is the true indicator? The good indicator is, which is the good indicator? So this is a good indicator and this is a bad indicator of economic progress. Before this difference looks half-hearted unless and until we try and understand both the concepts from a numerical perspective. Let me take an example to make you understand through a numerical. So one example is taken here for better clarity. Like, say, when we talk about, say we are producing commodity A, B, C, or you can take any examples like fruits, vegetables, milk. So this is being produced in an economy. So the heading becomes commodities, right? Then we talk about the quantity. Say 1000 units of this are produced, right? And say 800 units are produced, say 500 units are produced for milk. Now, this is the current production. When we talk about the prices, so the current prices, again, I'll take a very simple example and the simple figure for a simple calculation. That say the fruits are priced at 15 rupees per kg, vegetables are at 10 rupees per kg, and milk is at, say, 5 rupees per kg, right? So the next column is the P naught. P naught means the price of the base year. So the prices in the base year, as your experience would also say, the previous prices had always been, in India at least, lesser than today's prices, because inflation is a general phenomena and deflation happens little less often. So we take the example that fruits were priced at, say, 12 rupees per unit, right? Veggies were priced at 8 rupees per unit and milk was priced at 4 rupees per unit in the base year. So what would be the value of national income at constant prices and current prices? So at current prices we are taking here in this column, and at constant prices we are taking in this column. So just let's have the calculation. How do we calculate current year's national income? By today's price as well as today's quantity. But constant year means the prices would be taken off the base year and the quantity would be current year. So how do we go about it? So 15 into 1000, that gives you 15,000. 10 into 8 gives you 8,000. And 5 into 500 gives you 2,500. Let's calculate. What is the total? The total comes out to be 25,500. And if we talk about national income at constant prices, see the difference. Here for this, we have to multiply P naught with Q1. So my calculation will go as follows. 12,000, 8 is 64. So I have 6,400 and this is 2,000. So what is the figure with me now? The figure with me now is 0 and 20. So try and understand now. There is absolutely no change in the quantity produced in the ongoing year, and in the ongoing year the quantity is taken to be the constant value. But if we compare this national income figure and this national income figure, there is a huge difference of more than 5,000 with absolute no change in the quantity. And why is this difference arising? Absolutely, on account of the prices. Means if the prices are rising, it shows as if there is a rise in the economy. The economic growth is happening. But has the economic growth happened? Has the production of goods changed? No, the production of goods hasn't changed. See, the production, the column of production is exactly the same, but it's only on account of the different prices, or we may say inflation, that a different picture is showcased of national income. And this difference of 5,100 is giving us a mystifying effect that economy has risen at this value, which is not so. That's why we say the national income, which is calculated at current prices, is an eyewash, and national income, which is calculated at constant prices, is a better figure and is more reliable. I hope with this clarity we can move ahead, and now we have the formula of how do we convert nom nominal GDP into real and real GDP into nominal. Nominal and real. Now these two words are clear to you. GDP or national income is somehow, you know that national income is NNP at FC and GDP is GDP at MP, right? So it's just a matter of different expression of the income. Right. So when we say what is GDP deflator? This is the tool. GDP deflator is a tool which helps us understand this variable, this value, and how can we convert nominal into real and real into nominal. So what's the formula? Formula is nominal GDP by real GDP into 100. This is a wonderful formula, especially from paper point of view. Many a times this formula is used and only 2 to 3 steps and you get to have 3 marks with this bare application. Here we are given the value of GDP deflator. There are three variables, right? GDP deflator, nominal GDP, and real GDP. And in the paper, in the examination, you would be given 2 out of these 3 variables and one is to be found. It's simple application of the formula and you get to have the solution and hence the marks. So GDP deflator is was also talked about in the index number last year, and this index number is nothing but the GDP deflator. So with this topic comes to the closure and we are left with a small topic. Has GDP anything to do with welfare? Or does GDP indicate the welfare of an economy? Always? Sometimes? Very often? What's your opinion? So it looks as if the economy is rising, so the welfare also would be rising. But this is not that evident and it's not that generalized and direct relationship. We should ideally be having GDP related to welfare, but there are certain limitations because of which we say GDP is not the indicator of welfare of any economy. And this can be substantiated by 4 5 points, and the first and the foremost point is externality. Let's understand what do you mean by the term externalities. Appreciate the word external here, and external only gives you how do we define externalities. We know that whenever we are producing some goods and services, there would be some good or bad aspects of it. Like there is some firm and it's producing tremendous quantum of goods, right? But because of that, there is all the time round the clock noise pollution happening in the nearby vicinity. So what is that? That is externality. Why do we call it externality? Because that noise is not taken into consideration while we are talking about the national income. It's external from the national income accounting. And for that noise, no one is penalizing the owner of that production unit. So these are those transactions for which people are neither rewarded or not penalized. So we call these externalities. Externalities are of two types. It can be positive and it can be negative. Right. I've given you the example of negative, like the pollution happens in the surroundings because of the firms, the industries, right? We do have certain chronic diseases in the nearby area, like a sugar factory is there. So because of the availability of sugar, the flies, mosquitoes breed in the nearby surroundings and cause some diseases. But this aspect is overlooked. But that firm is generating GDP. So GDP here is not adding to the welfare, right? On a similar note, if there is a person who is dealing with the plants, vegetation, greenery. So when he is dealing with those nursery items, right? He is spreading a fresh breeze of air in the surroundings. But for that fresh breeze of air, people are benefited, but he is not given any award. That means this benefit is external to the national income calculation. That's why we say externality, right? The fresh air which he happens to give to others is overlooked. That is external, right? So we see that while people are creating GDP, that GDP sometimes is not taking into consideration those impacts which are external while calculation, right? So these are neither rewarded nor penalized. Next point is the distribution of GDP. When I say the distribution of GDP, what does it mean? Distribution of GDP is, let's again understand with the help of example. More and more GDP happens because of the efforts of, say, Tatas, Birlas, Ambanis, and all. Right. They are becoming richer, richest people of our country. Right. But is that GDP happening to benefit the poor section of the society? You know, many a times it is seen that a rise in this GDP is making rich the richer, but there is no impact, good, at least the good impact on poor sections, right? In fact, it is increasing the inequalities in the economy. Right. So we say that increase in GDP would not always be the welfare quotient in the society. Then the next point is the non-monetary transactions or exchanges. These are non-monetary exchanges. What are these? Let's understand. These are those exchanges or those transactions which cannot be monetized because of the system, because of the flaw in the calculation of national income. For example, any person working outside for outsider, that gets monetized. He gets to have the income or she gets to have the income. But when the same person does the same job for whom, that is never monetized. Housemaker's effort is never monetized. When a lady teaches her own child, it's not monetized. So these are the non-monetary exchanges, right? A number of things. When we do the kitchen garden or when we are doing any such activity, which ideally there are number of things which happen in barter also in the interiors and the remote areas. So all those non-monetary exchanges are not taken into calculation while we are calculating the GDP, right? So there may be a section in the society which is working hard day and night, right? And they are not monetized, and hence GDP is not, if there is any rise in the GDP, that section is not getting benefited. And then we have the changes in prices. A moment back, we talked about what happens when the prices change. The inflation rises in the economy, and a myth is created that the economic growth has happened. We let's refer to that example only, in the previous example, tabular example which I showed, that for the same quantity, 1 year it is showing that the national income is 25,500, but the other year it says the national income is 20,400. So why is this difference arising? This is arising, this GDP rises on account of the difference of 5,100. This GDP rise is on account of the prices only. There is no actual increase in the production of goods or services. And here the last pointer is the rate of population growth. Rate of growth of population. What does it mean? Let me take a simple example to make you understand. Say we're talking about 1 year when the population and GDP, we will talk about say 2024 and say 2020, 24, 25 and 25, 26, right? Say the population is, I'm just taking the fictitious figures, 1,000 units. You can put any value to it. And the GDP is 10,000 units, right? And here, if we say the next year, the GDP has risen to, say, 20,000, the double, right? And at the same time, population also has gone double. It's just a simple example with simple figures. Just check the per capita GDP here. Per capita GDP is GDP divided by the population. So I have 10 units here. And here the GDP is 20,000 and the population is 2,000. Hence, again, the answer comes out to be 10. What does this example tell me? It tells that the per head GDP is the same, 10 or 10. And when there was doubled GDP the next year, try and understand, the GDP in this case doubled, but the benefits to the mankind, to the people remained the same because population also grew. So GDP, sometimes the benefits of GDP sometimes are uh, taken, they take the back seat because population also is growing and there is no much benefit to the per head here in the economy. Right. With these examples and these pointers, we come to the closure of this topic. So, see you next. Have a blissful day. Bye.